The reason that I started reading Risale-i in English, it goes back to 2009. It was 2009, we were having a meeting and a dinner with a couple of youngsters, college students actually. One of them, that he is actually one of our Abi's son, that a prominent Abi's son. The questions that he asked me made me think, like, how come this child who is in college, he doesn't really is struggling basic Islamic pillars, the faith pillars, the itiqad. He had some questions about the basic itiqadi questions, and that's why I decided to focus on reading Risale in English, because this is how it made me. I just remembered when I was in high school, there were also questions in mind that was waiting to be solved. So through Risale Nur, I could answer those questions. And these are big questions, like, what is the purpose of this universe? How come Allah wanted to create this? If you didn't want it to create, could it be just still we would exist? Those kind of questions. These are big questions. That's why in recent years we started doing halaka, sohbet with some youngsters as well in English. So Şevki abi called me the other day, hey, we need somebody for English speaker who's going to read Risale-i Nur. I said, I'm not doing so bad, I'm just reading it, so we all read together in English. So I do benefit a lot while I'm reading. I hope it's going to be also beneficial for all of you. So I decided to read 11th word. This is, as I said, you will see, inshallah, this chapter is answering those big questions that everybody is struggling. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Risale-i Nur always starts with an ayat or a couple of ayats, and Bediüzzaman always picked some ayats instead of doing a tafsir for the whole Quran. He picked some ayats as a kind of an inspiration for him, and then he filled the rest. Okay, so it goes like that. وَالشَّمْسُ وَدُخَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ ذَاتَ لَهَا وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا وَالسَّمَاءِ وَمَا بَنَاهَا وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا تَحَاهَا وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَاهَا. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the merciful and the compassionate. This is the meaning. By the sun and the glorious splendor, by the moon as it follows it, by the day as it shows the sun's glory, by the night as it conceals it, by the firmament and its wonderful structure, the sky, by the sky and its wonderful structure, and by the earth and its wide expanse, and by the soul and the order and the proportion given it. This is the ayat. So, sun, moon, earth, sky, proportion, and the soul. So this is kind of this ayat is talking about, right? So let's read. Brother, if you want to understand a little about the talisman of the wisdom of the world, little, so looks like he is implying that we cannot really understand the whole picture of this creation, but we will try to understand at least a little. And then he's using talisman here. Talisman, do you know what talisman is? Tilsim. Like in English, how do you express talisman? It's special code, magic words, right? Remember the Alibaba, right? That he says some spell and then the door opens. So these are like some codes that we use. And then in order to understand the wisdom, the hikmet, the creation, the reason of the world. And the riddle is the puzzle, and the riddle of man's creation, and the mystery of the reality of the prescribed prayers. You can call that namaz, salat. Then consider this short comparison together with my own soul. So, if you are familiar with Risale-i Nur uses always the comparisons, the metaphors, the analogies. Because I remember from Einstein, he says, Analogies, metaphors is the only way to teach people the big phenomena, that big puzzles, right? So we use this, Bediüzzaman uses this a lot. And people remembers this. It becomes a wisdom for them because of those metaphors. Because metaphors become so easy to remember rather than the big, those big explanations. So he's going to use a comparison. One time, there was a king, as wealth. He had numerous treasuries containing diamonds and emeralds and jewels of every kind. So there's a king, and king is so rich. But this richness is in treasuries, like kind of hidden. Right? It's not really open there. It has everything. All these precious stones, diamonds, emeralds, gold, jewels, everything. So he's rich. Besides these, he had other still hidden, and wondrous treasures. So that's really like, when you look at those treasures again, you will say, wow, astonishment. You will be surprised. How come this is this much good? By way of attainment, he had complete skill in strange arts, encompassing knowledge of innumerable sciences, wondrous sciences, and great erudition, like knowledge, great scholarly knowledge, we should say, great knowledge in endless branches of abstruse learning. Difficult to understand. Abstruse means difficult to understand. So, yes, he's rich, he has hidden treasures, but in the meantime, he has lots of talents. He's an engineer, he's a designer, he's an artist, and he's a musician, everything. Just, he knows rocket science, he knows the nanotechnology, he knows the AI, everything. Every possible science that you can ever imagine, that you can even see, you can even experience. Everything, he knows those. So he's rich and he's very knowledgeable. So, now this is the most important part. Now, like every possessor of beauty and perfection wants to see and display his own beauty and perfection, that glorious king wanted to open up an exhibition and set out displays within it in order to make manifest, show, and display in the view of the people the majesty of his rule, his wealth, his shining, glittering wealth, the wonders of his art, the marvels of his knowledge, and so that he could behold, he could show his beauty and perfection in two respects. So this is the most important part of this chapter. So every possessor of beauty and perfection wants to see his own beauty and perfection. So, think about, this is a very simple explanation, right? Think about a painter, think about an engineer. An engineer, he knows how to invent things. Like the other day I was thinking about, like, how come people are being YouTubers? That there are lots of YouTubers that they talk about their experience, they talk about their knowledge, they want to share. Somehow this is human instinct that they want to really show that they know something and they want to help people. You may think that, oh, they are trying to get the fans, they want to maybe get income or something. That's the side thing. But at the beginning, they have that talent and they want to show that they have talent. So same thing here. A painter, he's a great painter. He has all this artistry and the knowledge. He has the skills. He can buy those big frames. He can buy all these wonderful colors, etc. But in the meantime, he can paint. And by doing it, he wants to see it by himself first. See his beauty and his perfection. So this is his first motive. He is doing it for himself. So this is the king. He's preparing that palace, that universe, whatever you call it, just for himself first. That is the number one thing. And because he wants to show, right? He wants to show. And this is, can we question that? We can't question that because he is the king, right? He owns everything. And he has the knowledge and he has the power. So nobody can question that. So, that, yes?
When we say like this, something weird, can we say like, if you have something you print out, whatever it has on the content, it comes on the print. Allah has names, Allah has art, science, everything, and it shows itself, not if he wants to see itself, himself.
I mean, yes, like, so exactly, like if you have something good, it is natural that you want to show. That is whatever inside, is this what you're trying to say?
He doesn't want to show, it comes itself, because he has power.
It's natural, yeah.
Yeah, he has power, we will see the power. He has knowledge, we see the science. He has whatever the names, Allah's name or Allah's character, we saw that. Like, your name Serdar, people say, oh, Serdar Abi, he is generous. So we saw you giving. He has scientific person. When you talk, we can see your science. You are alim, So like something like that. Allah has those names, and it comes itself, He doesn't have to make everything to see himself. When we say like this, we are thinking is he has some weakness or human character? No, he has all those
Correct.
names or power, and it comes itself like a printer, it
Yes.
comes.
Then I will ask this question: why did he create the world?
Because his names reflections.
Which name?
You can find which name. Like he's creator. He creates. He has science.
That's like, again, like they want to create. Why you want to create?
No, because he's correct. He has that power. He creates, and that's why we know him with creation.
That still don't explain why he creates the world, right? Or why you want to create me, right? That's still.
Yeah, we are coming there. Yeah.
It has to be a wish. And in the Quran, Allah says, He wants things to
We wanted
happen,
to-
so it happens.
Exactly. So we are looking from our perspective on this. We are looking from our perspective. Since we were created, we know we are created. We feel it, right? That's the thing. We create, like, this hotel was not there 20 years ago, but it's there, So how come the owner of this hotel built this place? I mean, you cannot question. He wanted to show that he can build it. He has the power, and then he decorated it in a way that to show all these the glittering embroidery and all these marvelous things. So now we come and then we benefit and we applaud that. Yeah, this is great. It's a great hotel.
But I kind of
It,
agree
after it, yes.
with that logic. This doesn't sit well. It kind of implies that Allah is trying to show off or something, right?
Definitely, yes. Why not? Why would you question if Allah wants to show off?
Well, this just kind of applies a human perspective,
Yes.
human characteristics
Yes.
to Allah, which we should not do, right?
We should. We can. There is.
We're looking at the different
We can
perspective
apply
and then we're looking
parts
at
of
it wrong
Allah's
way.
things to
Okay, so the second part will explain all these things now. It's coming to that. So first, he wanted to create. Okay, the king wanted to build a palace to show, to see himself, his beauty and his perfection. Okay? And as an example, I gave that painter example, or engineer example, or the builder of this hotel example. So, okay, he has the capacity, as the lady said, it's nature for that type of king to build, to show, to see his perfection. Now think about it. If you're a good writer, if you're a good chef, you want to cook good. To see first of all that I can do good. So you will feel proud of yourself. But obviously from these metaphors, we cannot assert the pride to Allah. But why not? He is the creator, we can. Right? But when we are doing these comparisons, that's why at the beginning he said, little. We can understand just a little. We cannot really comprehend it. That's why there will be that. That's why there will be Jannat. Then we will be able to understand everything. Actually, the whole timeline, the whole, what do you call it, the spectrum. We are here we are deciding what we know already. I am almost like 45, 46 years old right now, maybe 47 years old. I have this much knowledge, but when I'm 80, I will have more knowledge. And imagine that I died, I go to the hereafter. Imagine all the knowledge that we will see. That the horizon that we have will be bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's why he meant little at the beginning. So let's continue, but the second part should be able to give some light on those questions that you guys asked. So now number one was, he wanted, every possessor of beauty and perfection wants to see and display his own beauty and perfection. So that's number one. The second, the first still, he himself could show them with his own discerning eye. Discerning eye is like seeing the differences, okay? Like kind of exploring and seeing the differences, like kind of like wondrous eye. So that he himself could show them with his own discerning eye. And the second respect, he could look through the view of others. So, and then he created us. The king also, all right, started building the palace, and then he also created the conscious organisms like ourselves, so he can see, he can also look through the view of others. Like when we say mashallah, it means something, right? Or when we say inshallah, it means something. Based on some scholars, in the world there is only mashallah or inshallah. They say the mashallah is for the past events. Whatever happened in the past, it is mashallah. Whatever is going to happen in the future, we say inshallah. Okay? So, two reasons. Going back to the first one. So he himself could show them with his own eye. Okay, he could see himself that he says, wow, look at, again, do not just stick to my sentences that much, because I am trying to give this metaphor in a kind way. And the second is, he could see through the view of others. So there has to be conscious human beings, there has to be conscious organisms to be able to applaud, wow, this hotel is marvelous. All this embroidery is wonderful. This you know, the presenter, the camera, the sound system, everything is perfect. Okay? So that is what the reason is. So, with this purpose in mind, the king started to construct a majestic, big palace. This is one palace example. Just, it looks good, right? It looks quite good. Wonderful garden, wonderful architecture, beautiful, you know, marbles, different types of trees, etc. It's definitely perfect. It's looking great. So he divided it into magnificent apartments, and there are some sections, apartments, and decorated it with every sort of jewel from his treasuries. Remember, he had hidden treasures that people don't really know, right? And with his own hand, so full of art, he brought everything. He used the Italian marble, and he used some, you know, some jewels from other parts of the world. But in the meantime, he didn't just put it there. There are some also decorations. He showed his art while he's putting the marble there, right? And then he decorated the ceiling with gold, but the gold also has some embroideries. There are some writings and everything. It's beautiful. And there's also some technology. You go to the doors are open, there are cameras, the chairs that you sit is wonderful. Everything has a technology, everything is beautiful. And so full of art adorned with the finest and most beautiful words. He ordered it with the subtlest of the arts of his wisdom, and decked it out with the miraculous works of his knowledge. And everyone says, whoever visits that palace says, wow, look at this quality, look at this beauty. Nobody can question it. It is perfect. It's like this. This is the Buckingham Palace, one of the rooms. And it looks good, right? It definitely looks good. Like, look at the luxury. Look at the rug, the carpets, the decorations.
Man-made.
Yes,
Depends
man-made.
on your
Yes.
taste,
Yes,
you
just
know.
to give us an example. This is a palace. Looks good compared to our own houses, right? Then, okay, there's palace. Remember, there's king. There's palace. Palace is looking beautiful. It's big, majestic. But in the meantime, he also started building a feast. Then after completing it, he set up in the palace broad tables containing the most delicious of every kind of food and every sort of bounty. Fruits, vegetables, meats, everything. It's like delicious. And it is looking delicious, but in the meantime, the decoration is also delicious. Like, the other day, I'm eating orange, for instance. It's beautiful, right? The color is beautiful, the smell is beautiful. And then you are able to peel it, you are able to hold it. It's small, it's not like watermelon, correct? And then it has lots of benefits, as you said, juicy. So it's not just the benefits, the way that he gives it to you is also very artistic. Right? The decorations are beautiful. And he specified, okay, this is also important, and he specified an appropriate table for each group. There are groups, right, who is going to visit the palace, and there are some tables, they say, okay, you can eat from here, but you cannot touch this table. Okay, or you go to the second floor and there are some special tables just for you. So there are like that, there are some tables. Since he mentioned about the apartments and the sections, so we have those tables, separate tables for each group. He set out such a magnificent and artful banquet that it was as though the boundless, priceless bounties he spread out had come into existence through the works of 100 subtle arts. Everything is looking beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so I guess this is helping all of us to get that reflection, the tefekkür. Then he invited his people and his subjects from all the regions of his lands to feast and the behold, show the spectacle. So then he invited people. He invited his people around that land. Come and see and eat. Enjoy. Enjoy the palace, enjoy the drinks, the food, etc. Right? I don't know what palace is this, but as you can see, people are trying to get in there. Most probably. Anybody knows where this is? Okay, I don't know. Moscow. Is it Moscow? Oh, okay, so it's Moscow. It's one palace in Moscow. I don't know. Later, the king, okay, this is also another important part. So the later king appointed a supreme commander. Supreme commander. Okay, there's a palace, there is feast, there are regions, tables, etc. But there is also now a teacher, a supreme commander as teacher, to make known the purposes. What is the purpose of that commander or a teacher? To tell people the purpose of that palace, and to say, you can go from this stairs, okay, or you can eat from this table, you cannot touch here, you can drink from this, you cannot drink from there, or while you are entering the palace, make sure you clean your shoes. All these rules and regulations, how to get into the palace, how to walk around, so don't make noise, don't use your cell phone, don't take the pictures, whatever, etc. So there has to be, right? There has to be something, because everything is looking perfect. So as we get into the hotel, the people are telling us, hey, go from there, go from this is the room that you stay, etc. There has to be someone. Otherwise, that will be chaos, right? So there has to be that teacher to make known the purposes of the palace and the meanings of its contents. Purpose and the meaning, to describe its maker and its contents to the people, make known the secrets of the palace's embellishments, all the beauty, all the embroideries, teach what the arts within it were pointing to, and to explain what the well-set jewels were and the harmonious embroideries. So everything is looking perfect, but still the people, the visitors needs to have a guide there to understand what that item is for. That's a must. Are we good so far? The metaphor, the comparison? Okay, good? Moment up? Good? Okay. It's 11th word, you know it. And to explain to those who entered the palace the way in which they indicated the perfections and the arts of the palace's owner, and to inform them of the correct conduct in beholding them, and to explain the official ceremonies as the king, who did not appear, wish them to be. But as they get in, people are seeing only the palace and the tables, the decorations, everything, but they don't see the king yet. Okay? But they know that there's a commander. There's a teacher there. The teacher is talking about, hey, our king is asking you to clean your shoes as you get into the palace. Or you can only eat from this table. Right? Because the commander is speaking on behalf of the king. And the teacher and instructor has an assistant. Okay, this is also another important part. So that teacher, the commander, also has some assistants in different apartments. Why? Because it is such a big palace, right? And had an assistant in each area of the palace, while he himself remained in the largest apartment among his students, making the following announcement to all the spectators. He told them, "O people, by making this palace and displaying these things, our Lord, who is the king of the palace, wants to make himself known to you. You therefore should recognize him and try to get to know him." How come? What is the point? Like, how come the spectators will understand that he is trying to make the king make himself known by you? How are they going to understand that? Like, I am here, I'm in the hotel, and there's an owner of the hotel, and there's a commander, there's a teacher, or in the reception area, the receptionist is saying that the owner of this hotel is trying to show to you that he is the owner. And how do I know? Any question? Any answers for that? Yes? Wow.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. I'm impressed. What's your name? Oh, Mehmet, MashaAllah. I'm impressed, Mehmet. I like your answer, definitely. Like, imagine he could still create, but he would not give this food in an artistic way. Like I just described the orange, right? We could eat orange because we needed to because of the vitamin C, but we could not really taste anything. We could still eat. We had to still eat that. Like just you had lunch, right? And just to survive of our bodies, you could just eat that food. If you watched Matrix, there's definitely good scenes about that. You know, after the Neo goes to the Matrix, gets into the Matrix, he starts eating some not very delicious food just to survive. So the palace, the king of the palace could just give us all these rooms, all these food, but we could just eat it without any pleasure, without any taste buds. We could just drink water without having any kind of pleasure again. So, with those taste buds, with the pleasures that we are getting while we are eating, and you can measure it with all other things as well in our life, right? The knowledge, for instance, it gives certain pleasure as well, right? So we are getting that pleasure. It is really fulfilling and it's really uplifting you with those things. People are really shooting for those pleasures in their lives. So he chose to add those pleasures to the food, to the palace. Everything is looking beautiful. It is a food for our eyes. There is definitely a wonderful music. It's a food for our ears, and it's a food for our soul. It shows that the king wants to be known as compassionate. Okay? Compassionate. Because he loves us. He cares us. That is the show. So how come from the pleasure of the food we came all the way to the compassion? That is what it is exactly. It shows that Allah is, the creator is Rahim, very compassionate. Otherwise we could, right? We could just eat it because we have to eat. We just drink water because we have to. We have to breathe because we have to. But Allah gave us all that pleasures in our life. Everything is looking very tasty. It's good. I mean, living is good, isn't it? If you want to understand what I'm trying to say, there is this Disney movie I would highly recommend, The Soul. If you haven't watched it, definitely watch it. It really describes this living. The beauty of living is such a beautiful thing. I highly recommend it. The Soul. It really teaches this concept as well. The Soul. And now going back to the teacher, he told them, people, by making this palace and displaying these things, our Lord, who is the king of the palace, wants to make himself known to you. You therefore should recognize him, try to get to know him. So he's trying to known by you. So then if the king is trying to know by you, you should do the same thing. So you need to really push yourself to know him. Because this is his purpose. Okay? That's why he's giving you all these bounties. All this stuff that we think it's granted. Right? And with these adornments, with these arts, with this embroidery, with these embellishments, everything is looking perfect. He wants to make himself loved by you. And you too make yourself loved by him, by appreciating his art and admiring his work. Appreciating his work is like saying subhanallah, right? Or saying mashallah. Like Allah created it perfectly. The king created it perfectly from the metaphor. And admiring his work. So this is the way of the Risale-i Nur. It keeps talking about tefekkür, reflection. Because reflection is something between you and Allah. There is no middleman there. So we have the capacity, we can think about all the creations, we can think about all the past, and we can try to understand what is it for me. Because the purpose, again, going back, the purpose is the king wants to be known by you. Then in the meantime, we need to push ourselves to know him by really reflecting on all the things that was given to us in the past, right? And he shows his love for you through these bounties that you see. So you should love him too by obeying him. So by obeying him, you should also show that you love him. Imagine that we have kids, right? And your child will say, oh, daddy, I love you, mommy, I love you. But in the meantime, your child does not really respond you well, does not really comply with you well. He or she doesn't really do homework, and although you are insisting, etc. So that love is kind of a bit not very settled. Okay? So that's the same thing. So going back to the prescribed prayers, the salat, psalm, oruj, all these things. So there are certain du'as, certain ibadats. There are certain, I should say it from the palace metaphor, comparison. There are certain routines that the people, the spectators in the palace needs to do. There are some ceremonies from time to time, like Ramadan, right? Or Bayram, like Eid. There are 5 or 6 times salat times in the palace that you need to go and show that you respect and you obey, because it is one way to show that yes, there is a king, and I am showing my respect by attending these routines. Like all these, we do sajda, we do ruku, or by fasting. We are intentionally not touching those bounties. Because why? Because the king said so. Because these are the, again, routines. These are the expectations told to us by that commander. And we know that the commander is the commander of the king. That's why. So far good? Also good? Okay. And through these bounties and gifts which are to be seen, he shows his compassion, as we said. He shows his compassion and kindness for you. So you should show your respect for him by offering thanks. That's why we say thank you. We say alhamdulillah. We say mashallah, right? And we should still show our respect by offering thanks. And through these works of his perfection, he wants to display his transcendent beauty to you. Transcendent is like magnificent, it's big. Like you can't really comprehend that in this world. That's why I said, that's why maybe we keep talking about, right, there has to be an afterlife, there has to be. Because the knowledge that we will experience in this life will not be enough to really understand the huge creation. There has to be Jannah, there has to be hereafter. There has to be. And you can read this from also the 10th word, Hashir Risalesi, as well. There has to be. Because imagine that you are in the palace, everything is looking good, everything is delicious, it is given to you in a very artistic way, you love it, then it's done. Then the love will change to maybe not love. So that may happen, yeah. So that's why there has to be another level, another elated level of creation. And through these works of his perfection, he wants to display his transcendent beauty to you. So you should show your eagerness to see him and gain his regard. He wants to display. And through placing a particular, this is also another important part. Through placing a particular stamp and special seal and inimitable signet on every one of these adorned works of art that you see, he wants to show that everything is particular to him and is the work of his own hands, and that he is single and unique and independent and removed. So you therefore should recognize that he is single and alone and without peer or like or match, except that he is such. Like, this is Panasonic. It says Panasonic here. They put the sign. They put the sign, the seal. Okay? So if you are able to see some other remotes, maybe one of them will say Toshiba, the other one will say Sony. So we know that that was produced by Panasonic. So apply it to the creation. Every item in that palace, every bounty, every fruit, vegetables, trees, marbles, stones, jewels, everything, it has a seal. And when you look at the back or front, whatever, you see that seal that was created, structured by that king. Okay, it shows that he is one, he is single. So we know that science, right, says the creation, from the creation of the world, all the apples are different. All the apples. Like, how come? Like, we know all the snowflakes are different. We know that. And I learned recently, there is a Pauli principle in physics. Anybody who studied physics here? I don't want to talk that much. Pauli principle. He got a Nobel Prize in 1925. And I read this from Charlie, and I read this as I remember, or Fountain. The electrons are different. Electrons. The way their circles are different. So same atom, but the electrons are different. That's amazing, isn't it? but it shows some. But in the meantime, everything is same. Like the apple that we are eating today is almost same that we ate yesterday or last year or 500 years ago. How come all these differences still create that singleness, uniqueness, right? So, because at the end, everything, he wants everything to point at him as single, just one, and without any peers. There's no partner. Okay? And he spoke further fitting words to the spectators like these concerning the king and this station. Then the people who had entered the palace separated into two groups. There's always these two groups. People on the right side, on the left side, and there's always two groups. Okay? So you got the palace, you understand there's commander. Commander has the assistants. Everything is looking beautiful. Now, the first group. Is everything okay so far? You got it? Yeah. The first group, since these people had self-knowledge, they were also intelligent, and their hearts were in the right place. When they looked at the wonders inside the palace,
They were also
declared.
intelligent.
Okay, because they are looking again from that hikmet perspective. They are looking for the wisdom. Because they have not seen such palace before. There are great matters afoot here. Lots of wonderful things happening here. How come? They understood that it was not in vain. I mean, there has to be something. And some trifling plating. It's not just a plating. They were curious. And while wondering, I wonder what the talisman of this is and what it contains. And they are wondering. And because the king was pleased at their becoming conduct and manners, he invited them to another special, elevated, ineffable palace. So since they were good, they started asking questions, because the purpose is not just to go to the tables, the second floor, and eat all the bounties there. Okay? Yes, they will eat it, they will taste it, but they will taste it again just to say, wow, mashallah, how come this is this much delicious? Like when I went to Africa, I had tasted mango. Mango is very regular right now. It's like I was 22 years old. First time I was tasting mango. I said, wow, this is such a wonderful fruit. I think the fruits in Jannah should be this much tasteful. And I promoted to papaya then. I don't know if you tasted papaya. Papaya was my ultimate fruit. But the papaya, obviously in Tanzania, not the one in here. I said, wow, papaya is unbelievable. Because until that time, I have never tasted mango or papaya. Like, maybe I had seen and eaten pineapple, but not that much at least. Because I'm from Ankara. How come you only eat watermelon, potatoes? Not potatoes. No, when I was in the college, we were eating potatoes every day, obviously. And we had started making jokes like, Allah will give us the mountains of potatoes in Jannah. But when I ate those, when I tasted those fruits, I said, wow, I think the fruits in Jannah should be this much tasty. It's very important. What was my point here? You make me forget.
They were saying that there are great matters that we could hear.
Yes, yes. And now, obviously, the spectators, the people are now tasting it, but they are tasting it in a way, this is wonderful, and thanks to King, he gave us this opportunity to taste such a beautiful, fruitful, delicious fruit. So they are referring from that taste again to the how high, how great the king is. They are not just living for the taste. They are referring the taste to the king's power and the treasury. Okay? So since king is very pleased with the spectators, they said, okay, this group is wonderful, now you deserve even a better palace. And that palace is going to be even better than this. Okay? So in this palace you had to walk, but in that palace, in this bigger, the other palace that I'm talking about, you don't even have to walk. It's just going to be like Amazon. You just click and then it will come to your house. Like even better than that. It will just appear. So, right? You don't have to pay. So it's going to be that much beautiful. So that is the first group, right? Good group. This is the good group. But there's always the second group that we always experienced. The second group, because their minds were corrupted, and minds are corrupted. It can be different reasons why their minds are corrupted. Maybe they didn't read enough, or they watched things that they are not supposed to watch. They were friends with some other people that they were not supposed to, and they were attended some places that really corrupted their brain, their minds, and their hearts extinguished, like extinguishing of hearts, like extinguishes, like you extinguish fires, right? So their heart is not really pumping in a way. And when they entered the palace, they were defeated by their evil commanding souls. They made noise. As I said, they were supposed to clean their shoes, but they just get into the palace with their dirty shoes. Everything is now looking mud. They're making this, problems while they're walking around. And they took notice of nothing apart from the delicious foods. They just look at the pleasures. And they closed their eyes to all the virtues and stopped up their ears to the guidance of the master. Remember that commander, the teacher? And the warnings of his students. They did not really pay attention to any of those signs. They just ate, drink, and then they drank some things that they were not supposed to drink. They got drunk. They really start destroying the harmony. Even those good ones started like, hey, what's happening? These guys are crazy or something. The commander's supposed to do something, or the king's supposed to be doing something. Isn't it? Because you are good. In the meantime, in the same palace, that you are seeing some other groups, they are really not respecting you. What are you going to do? Either you will try to correct it. This is what the Hizmet is trying to do, right? Because that group is really creating some noise, disrupting the harmony. Or, if you can't handle that, you are going to expect the king to do something. And if the king does not do anything, you will start saying, how come the king was just, compassionate, the merciful? How come, I was so good, but that group also got the same bounty? And you will start questioning his compassionateness, his just. So that's going back to the 10th Risale, 10th source, which is 10th word, Haşr Risalesi. You will start questioning the justness if there is no hereafter. You see? So that group needs to be somehow reprimanded and punished, executed. Too much. So the glorious Creator built this palace for the above mentioned aims. The achievement of these aims is dependent on two things. Okay, I'm just finishing up now. So we said two groups. Now, the existence of the master. So there has to be a commander in that palace. Okay? The existence of that master, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whom we saw and whose speech we heard. Because if not for him, all the aims would have been futile. Like vain, not fruitful, unproductive. Okay? Because if not for him, all the aims would have been futile. For an incomprehensible book with no author consists only meaningless paper. There has to be, if there's a book, an incomprehensible book, there has to be a writer and author should be able to explain it to the people. Otherwise, what's the purpose of that incomprehensible book then? So if people don't understand the purpose of the palace, so what's the purpose of the palace then? So the existence depends on, that's why we know that as long as there is people who has the iman in the world, Allah is not gonna do the Qiyamah. Correct? You know this hadith, right? So that is going back to that. As soon as there is no purpose or no people living in that palace, kind of looking for the purpose of the palace, then there will be Qiyamah. That is what we know from that hadith. So that is the number one reason for the existence of the palace. The second, people listening the master's words, accepting them. That is to say, the master's existence is the cause of the palace's existence. So that's why we know that, right? That if it wasn't you, I would not create the whole universe, that Allah says to our Prophet ﷺ, right? So that's going back. This is such a wonderful connection, exactly. So that is to say, the master's existence is the cause of the palace's existence. And the people's listening to him is the cause of the continuation of the palace's existence. Okay. His existence, not just enough. People should be able to continue listening to him, and not just listening, and obeying, following, as I said. The rules of the palace, paying attention to the rules, paying attention what it is for me. So, that concludes my chapter. Let me see. Yes, that's it. So, and I have only 7 minutes. I hope it made sense. If there's a question, we will try to answer. If there's not, Osam, Hocam?
Just make a comment. Didn't have to do a lot, but we watch in some movies like you're having a great meal, and then wow, this is awesome, wonderful taste. I have something like this before. I want to see the chef. So that's the immediate reaction. I want to see the chef. I want to just thank you. I felt that once a couple of weeks ago. Immediately, like whatever we had on the table, like, perfect. We were like 4 people, all of us. We just wanted to see the chef and thank you. So,
Yeah.
just went back to that moment.
So because it was so delicious, so tasty.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going there 40 years.
Maybe, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's what I did. Chef Kab, I hope it made sense to all of us, but no, we studied.